I am David Moore, founder of Holiday Coro. Effectively, I invented the entire prop industry starting around 2008 for my own purpose, was doing my own props, had a CNC machine, making stuff, and then just one day I woke up and I'm here now. I personally helped design hundreds of props for every imaginable project. If you've been to any theme park, a lot of zoos, drive-through things, we've done all kinds of crazy props. So you see a lot of props on our website, but we also have tons of props that we do for customers that you'll never see published. And if you ever have a need for something really unique and it's really complex, feel free to reach out to us. I won't say it's necessarily cheap to make a very unique specialized prop, but we can make anything. All right, let's get started here. If you've watched our previous two sessions, you'll notice I'm a planner. I like planning things. Planning works well for me, and it usually means that things turn out better. Now, I get that slows down the process, especially if you're having a good time. And I've mentioned if any of this planning and it's too much, you're like, I just gotta get going. Do that. Just because I plan or other people plan or tell you to plan, if it makes you happy, jump right in. I had a customer this week that said, "Hey, I don't want all that planning. I just want you to tell me what to get, and we're going to get started. I'll figure out when the boxes arrive." So totally okay. Now, that said, planning is always going to be cheaper. It's just like anything else. If you plan a vacation, you plan building a house, you plan anything, it's usually cheaper than if you just wing it. You know, show up at the airport, ask for a ticket on the next flight out, and see how that works. Planning also makes use of your limited install time, because usually we're doing installs in compressed periods of time. Maybe you get off at Thanksgiving and you got a couple of days and you're trying to get that whole display built. You really don't want to be that customer who calls us up and goes, "Yeah, I need to pay the $49 to have that next day tomorrow. Can it definitely be here tomorrow?" And yeah, no, it doesn't arrive on Thanksgiving. So make sure that if you're doing planning, it's going to allow you to get the most out of that time. So you're not got that part that's $15 or 29 cents or whatever it is that you need that you should have gotten. Also, that makes it less stressful because you go up, you have the right cables, you have the right screws, whatever it is. I get that some stuff you're going to be able to get at Home Depot, like mounting things and whatnot. Maybe you borrow a tool from a neighbor. But these specialized things that are for RGB lights are not sold down at Home Depot or even on Amazon many times. Okay. Planning also allows you to help with your display. So some people have great neighbors or family comes over. Up and running. All right. So if you have any questions, please post them up. Stop sharing there, and I'm going to answer some of these questions. My first question comes from Daryl. Why do most RGB lights come in strings of 50 and props, coral strips, or something other than 50, the hot dog and bun effect? Well, the answer is it depends. So when we're designing a prop, we try to get to a nice number. So for example, let's say you're doing a singing face. You might have hundreds of pixels in this. You have an option. Sometimes you can have to trade off the aesthetics. So we're normally trying to, let's say in a prop, keep consistent spacing. So we don't want to use, let's say, 1 inch center to center spacing around the outside and then use 2 inch center to center spacing because we want to get the pixels to match up. And we're also trying to get certain kinds of props. Like I'll give you an example. The stars are a fine example of that. They just mathematically, because of the number of sections on 5 around the outside, just have to end up in certain numbers that don't end up to a 50 or 100 in most cases. Now, the factories produce stuff in 50 and 100 because all their jigs are made in these trays that are made in 50 and 100s. Now, in some specialized cases, they may make a less than that, but all the equipment is set up, like the automated equipment that puts the glue in and solders the pixels. All that's really set up for banks of groupings. It might be 10 or 20, that kind of thing. So that's why the pixel vendors want to make them in 50 or 100s, and they don't want to make long strings. This doesn't apply to seeds, but they don't make long ones because it gets very hard to manipulate and hold those. It also gets hard to get strings over 100 and then put them in your prop and not have them all wonky. So it just happens. We're aware that that's not what you want, and in most cases, most vendors are trying to get that. But you also, again, don't want to get a prop that looks really weird because somebody forced it to have exactly 100 or 300 pixels. 179. 179 is, let's see here. I'll pull this back up here. Share. All right. 179 is this right here in the bottom right-hand corner. They actually don't have to be waterproof. So a lot of people are concerned, and I know the solder shrink tubes are waterproof. Believe it or not, like I'll give you an example of a common question we get. Well, I have, let's say, a star and it uses 90 pixels and I have 100 pixels. What do I do with the 10 pixels? You just cut them off. Just cut them off. Well, then now I have a bare wire at the end. What do? I got to do something with it. No, you don't. So unless that wire is going to ground out on something, you usually can just cut those wires off. Obviously, the power's off. You just cut those wires off. It's low voltage. Nobody's getting killed here. This is 5, 12, maybe 24 volts in some weird circumstances. So nobody's getting endangered here. And as long as they're not touching grounding things, we're fine. And actually, water in many cases in low voltage is fine. You really won't have many problems because in most cases it's rain. It's not even conductive anyway. So sometimes we worry more about like the water getting in there. Now, where you really were going to have problems with water, definitely in your controller. So you put a circuit board into some water and run it with power on. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a problem. Gorilla tape is your friend, and absolutely that is true. In life, that's one of those things. Just spend the extra money for the Gorilla tape, or I'm sure there's other vendors that make it. Maybe somebody has a suggestion. Totally worth the money. Now there's a suggestion here about pixel pliers, and let me go ahead and pull that up here. And what pixel pliers are. Anybody who's put pixels into props, and that is a good point, into props here is this tool right here. And watch this video down here. This is item code number 871. And it would help if David would bother to share the screen. All right, here we go. Sharing the screen. There we go. So this is item code 871. And these are the pixel pliers. They have a rounded corner. You do not use them like this. This is just an example. They grab the base of the pixel on a 12 millimeter pixel, and they will shove the pixel through the hole. It's hard when you've got your fingers trying to hold the pixel and push it in. It's just really hard. The pixel pliers can be easier. I will say that even with that, sometimes they can be a little tough to use. You got to grab them and push them in. You're pushing a lot of pressure down on them. But I will say that generally when we quote most people, we do provide those pixel pliers with a lot of props. If you go to a 90 pixel prop, maybe not a star. If you're putting in 500 pixels, yeah, totally get the pliers. So next, our Facebook support group, there's a link post to that. Highly recommend you join it. If you have a technical question, there's a whole bunch of stuff up there. Don't just have to push your question. Go up in the search box and search for your question beforehand. That group's been out there for years. So a lot of people have already answered the question you may already have, and you don't have to wait for a response. What are some of the best practices supporting standing large roof Coro? So I'm not a huge fan of roofs and getting up on roofs. There's a lot of safety issues, but I know sometimes you've got all your yard filled up. You got the face of your house filled up, and the last left place, because the neighbor says, nope, not putting in my yard, is the roof. And if that's the case, where I've seen the best examples of that is to actually build a frame. And obviously, all roofs are going to be different. If you have a 10 on 12 pitch, this is going to be totally different than something like a 2 on 12 pitch. 2 on 12, very shallow. You can walk on it. 10 on 12, you're going to slide off unless you're the roofing guy. So where I've seen most of those for things, especially like moving heads, like the floodlight kind of searchlight deals, they are made most often out of wood framing. So you go up to your peak, for example, you build a piece, you put some sandbags or a play sandbag onto them, keep them down, and then you can build a frame that actually supports them. I don't recommend putting screws into your roof in general. I know some people do that. You got to make sure you hit those rafters. So stuff up above your head, flying off, just keep that in mind. Safety is definitely a concern there. Will you go through the setup the Hinks 3 with long range and 2 long range receivers, setting the dip switches in a future setting? Actually, it's funny you should mention that. We are redoing all of our long range videos. And in fact, I just did a few more tonight, and we are only down to, I believe, let's take a look here, one video for the long range Smart 16 AC with setup and X lights. These videos are completely redone. I get it. We've had some junky videos that are kind of blah, blah, blah. These will cover not only if you're using a legacy product like LOR, where you have to do universe and channel, but also with full X lights using the visualizer, which is of course magic. And it'll show you both versions with every kind of receiver, regular, Smart 16, version 1 and 2, and the Smart 16 AC. If it's not covered in there, you probably don't need it. But if you do, reach out to us. And your question is yes. And by the way, Hinks version 3, not any different from the version 1, except for it has bigger pixel count. Otherwise, they work the same. All the Hinks Pix family has been the same. They're all interconnected. Leaving controllers on 24/7, I'm afraid of pixel fires. And if you've got low quality pixels, I would say, yeah, turn them off. If you've got a vendor and you like got super cheap pixels, yeah, turn them off. I would not have any hesitation telling any customer that's bought our pixels to leave them on. And like I said in my last presentation, if we burn your house down, just sue us. We have insurance. If you're buying those pixels off of Amazon from a cheap vendor, technically on Amazon, they should have insurance. If you're buying from a guy in a garage kind of a deal, they don't have insurance in most cases. Yeah, turn them off if you're really worried about that. That could be a concern. I know that was especially a problem in the past, but it seems like most of that's been solved. I don't know how C pixels are going to play out. Wi-Fi versus Ethernet. No, bad Wi-Fi. And I know some people are going to debate this, but we even have a don't do Wi-Fi article, wireless network options, right here under our knowledge base. All the way back to 2019, we've been saying this. And so this just goes through and tells you the pros and cons of wired versus wireless. 15 years ago, I used a linked system and I thought, this is really cool. They got this wireless. I don't need to do all these Cat5 cables. This is genius. I set it all up and it was crap. It just didn't work. It was inconsistent. And I have heard that same thing over and over again from customers over the years. Oh, I use Wi-Fi, use Wi-Fi access point, whatever. You don't control the world of air. All that Wi-Fi signal. I've had displays where, hey, I'm streaming out to my controller in the front yard because I didn't want to run a cable and I want to run the show from my PC. And then it acts funny. Well, guess what? It's when your wife is streaming Netflix or your kid's playing games and all of a sudden your Wi-Fi network goes to pot. I've seen that multiple times. That's the thing. Your neighbor's doing things. We don't control the Wi-Fi space, and that can create very unusual things. And here's the problem. Unlike watching YouTube, which is buffered, it downloads content, you get some weird stuff with your Wi-Fi, you never even know. Netflix, all buffered. So unless your network connection goes down for 20, 30 seconds, which is unusual, you're fine. Pixels, you will notice a DMX connection issue within a quarter of a second. You'll notice that. Half a second. 1 second, your display looks like it's got connection fit. So do I recommend Wi-Fi? No. If you could put a cable to it, put a cable to it. We have done Wi-Fi, especially in commercial installations like across streets, very large shows that are in very large areas. But even some of those, we've given up and gone to like fiber because that's actually more reliable. So Wi-Fi, nah, I would not recommend it. Too stressful. Is there a way to mount a matrix to a crew car garage to still be able to use it? There actually are some solutions out there. We developed a product years ago, and we could not. Some of the garage doors were different, and it worked for some, but not all. And you do have issues with pinch points in many garage doors. Again, some are flat one section, some are sectional. Some have sectionals in different spots. Some have all these different variations, different widths. So it's hard. It's also hard depending upon the sealing amount. So if you got a garage door in Florida, they're not sealed up too well, but in Minnesota, usually got all this trim and stuff around the sides, and they're not easy to get cables from the front side to the back side. Most people don't want to drill holes in them. I've seen that done. Is there a good way to do it? Yeah. Park your cars inside and don't use it, or park your cars out on the street or your neighbor's yard or a driveway or something. Work something out. It's really, again, you're going to see examples of it done. Absolutely, it can be done. When we developed the product, we felt that it had some safety issues. And we're concerned about that and weight issues, especially with large pixels of the time, maybe less with seeds now, but and the pinch points and stuff like that, and that causing safety issues. So yeah. I would go to the internet. The internet will give you some examples and then decide what's best for you. Okay. All right. So again, Jim will get with you on those brilliant bulbs. We want to thank you. We're a little over today. We look forward to seeing you for the next event, which will be next Tuesday. And hopefully you can attend. And again, we will be covering model layout and X-Lights. And you think there's not that much stuff. It's just one tab in X-Lights. No, there's a ton of stuff in there. And a lot of mistakes get made there. Behind design problems, model layout is probably the most complex things that confuse people. And often because it's done usually one time, especially when you set up your display, you got to learn all this stuff about that, and it's hard to figure it all out. So feel free to join us for model layout, and we look forward to seeing you. And of course, if you ever have any questions, feel free to always reach out to us at holidaycore.com/contact us, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.